Hey, Homeworthy. I'm Bob, and you're at my home in Dallas, Texas. Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. To access all of this exclusive content, simply click the Join button below to become a member today. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Bob Gibbs, and we're at my home in Dallas, Texas. I have been in this house for 17 years. It's the longest I've ever lived in one location. The house was built in 1926. So if she's closing in on 100 years, which is, anyone that's familiar with Dallas will know that's a rarity. We like to tear things down. So it's a miracle that she has survived. And I live here with my partner, Matthew Wilson, and our miniature dachshund, Mabel. This is a Tudor Revival. So from the outside, it's a traditional red brick with the swooping roof line. Inside, a lot of the original features are still in the house. So I have all plaster walls. When you get to the fireplace, you'll see a bachelor fireplace, which are fairly rare in Texas, and then lots of arches and crown and millwork and original windows. So you'll see all of that as we go through the house. I've made 3 passes on this house on construction. So when I moved in, it was 1,400 square feet, a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. That's what I thought I wanted when I bought this house, and quickly realized after moving in that it just was too small for me. And so I've done 3 additions to the house, completing the last one just 3 months ago. I'm a collector. I've watched all the Homeworthy shows. 99% of your people are a collector, and we're a crazy bunch. So you'll see as you walk through the house, there's lots of collections. I love bronzes. I love lamps. I can't stop myself from a pair of lamps. It's like kryptonite for me. Art is an expensive problem for me that I'd like to find a cure for. So there's a lot of stuff in this house. So I try to temper that collection a couple of ways by smalls. For some reason, I'm drawn to the little small things. And so you'll see I try to corral those into bookcases or cabinets so it doesn't feel so busy. And then, for the furnishings, I would say they're primarily going to be not modern, they're current, but maybe transitional. And so I try to mix that style. So hopefully, you and your viewers see it as that and don't read it as grandma. So hopefully I'm fighting the good fight against grandma. Welcome to my living room. I am not a fan of homes with no entryways, and I bought a house with no entryway. So you walk right into the front door into my entryway. It's an old house, 100 years old, and there are a lot of quirky things about this house I love, one of which is the door. The door is original, all of the arching and all of that. When I moved in, it had a really bad 70s stained glass in it of daffodils. And I thought, not my favorite, but it was a little janky, and I tried to repair it, and then one night at 2 a.m. I hear the glass breaking and falling to the floor. So I just had clear for a while, and then about a month after it fell out, I was at an antique store and walking by, and that dusty thing was sitting on the ground for $20, and I thought, what are the chances that that thing will fit? Brought it home, perfect fit, snapped it in, put a little Stappen, and it's been there everywhere. So that's all Bob's handiwork. So super handy there. One of the things that I just loved when I bought this house was the original fireplace. This is a Batch Elder fireplace, which is the man who developed and handmade all of these tiles. Pasadena-based guy from about 1903. He was kind of the first to do high-quality goods and advertise them in the way that like builders were interested in shipping them across country. So you'll find pockets of them across the U.S. It's rare as hen's teeth to find them in Dallas. So I just love this and all the detail. We have the cove molding. I'm not sure if it catches in here, but I love how these ceilings cove up and give you a little extra height. On the top of the mantle, a couple of things you're going to hear today: mom and grandmothers. And so mom and grandmother highly influenced me. Both were antique collectors, drugged me along on their shopping expeditions. And so that's where kind of this love of old things comes from. When I talk about my mom, you'll hear I stole that from her house, or she gave it to me, meaning I said, can I have that? And she said, sure. So on the mantle, a beautiful French clock, bronze clock on a rouge base that I stole out of her pantry of all places. And then these, I love. These are some of my favorite things. These are Henry Dufay. He is a French bronze foundry worker from France at the time of Marie Antoinette. These are not from Versailles, but he did cabinets with a lot of the gilt bronze work that went into Versailles. So these are fantastic. These are chenets. So if you don't know what a chenet is, those are fire dogs. I can't imagine something so beautiful being down there and getting burned by fires, but you can see on the back of them where the support went so they could hold their logs. So just love these. And then above it is an artist that I have collected for a number of years. His name is Michael Workman, and primarily does the American West. This is an unusual work for him. I haven't been able to verify, but I believe this may have been a student piece. I bought this at a corporate auction they were getting rid of all their corporate art. And this thing weighs about 300 pounds. It's on steel. The under support is steel, and then all of this paint work is done by rotary blades, acid washes, and then patina put on. So I just love how that contemporary feel really is an American Southwest painting. So one of my favorite pieces of art. Over to the right here, we have my monkey. This is Dresden monkey. Carl Thiem was the designer. He, worked for Meissen and Dresden. A friend of mine bought one. I had to have one, and it took me about 3 years to find it. Finally found it at auction at Christie's, and he's come home to live with me. The interesting thing that you'll hear from me is like, I bought one monkey, and then suddenly monkeys started popping up around me. And it's like I wasn't even looking for monkeys. So as we go through the house, you'll go, oh, there's another monkey. And so you'll hear that story, whether it be bronzes or things like that. I'll be like, oh, I started with one and suddenly I have 50. So, and then as we move into the corner of the living room, have a beautiful French desk. I don't use it as a desk. It's all display. One of the things as an art collector I had always wanted was an old master painting, and they've gone in and out of fashion. Even when they're out of fashion, they're ridiculously expensive. And so this is an old master painting that I found from a great dealer here in Dallas, and I begged and pleaded and needled and got the price down, and then he let me pay it out over a couple of months. And so, finally Bob has an old master painting. So really love that. That's Agamemnon, so it copies David painting that's over in Fort Worth. It's one of my favorite paintings, so I was thrilled to get that. And then the other thing, I lost my grandmother, who was my antique running buddy last year, and so you'll hear me say a couple of things. This was one of her pieces, and it's a Champ-Follet bronze inkwell, which I just love, and it was one of her favorite things, so I'm happy to have it in the house. Those are teak garden balls that I found. Wisteria was a local Dallas company that was a catalog business, and they also were extreme shoppers. So they'd shop all over the world and bring back one-offs and then manufacture some of, reproduce some of the things they had found. And so they went out of business and sold to another company. And so they had their sample sale. And these are giant teak balls that were supposed to go out into a garden, but they never produced them. So these are just samples that I thought looked great in kind of a dead spot where this stair comes down and doesn't leave me much option. All the floors in the house are original, and as we move through the house, the newer parts of the house, we matched the white oak. These are I think these are 2.5-inch wide and about 2.5-inch deep, tongued, and so we found old goods and married them up and tied them together. So yeah, throughout the house you have 100-year-old hardwood floors that still look amazing, I think. They have some dings and scratches and things like that, but that's what makes a house great. Yeah, so when I moved into this house, I think I said to you guys, it looked nothing like this. And so I'm only the fourth owner of this house, so a 100-year-old house, and I'm the fourth owner. And everyone that has lived in this house has really loved it. There are notes that get passed forward to the next owners. There's journals of what were done to the house by that owner. Sometimes in their house, some of the blueprints are still here. And so when I bought from the last owner, she had just done the stuff I hate doing, like the mechanicals, the roof, all the hard stuff was done. But all the walls were like a terracotta. She had beautiful taste, but it was like walking in either to a Santa Fe or a Taos Pueblo. So imagine terracotta walls, a lot of terracotta down on the floors in the bath, black and white Indian photographs, and so very light and different. And so I knew I wanted something different, and so I wanted historic colors, and where we had the opportunity to subtly I'll tell you the story because no one ever gets it. I wait for them to pick it up and they never get it. So in all the original parts of the house from 1926, I did go with this green, which is a custom color that I developed and then had Benjamin Moore make, and the same with this kind of mustardy gold trim. I wanted historical trim colors and the brown on the fireplace. As we moved through the house, anything that was added to or as a new addition, I flipped. And so the walls are historic colors, custom made for me, but all of the trim work will be white. And so that's the indication that those rooms are new. These are a Dallas artist called Carmen Menza, and she does light box installations in all different sizes. I have 3, so you'll see another one in another part of the house. I love them, they're unexpected. They're not colors that I decorate with, which I love, because again, I think art should be different. You'll see none of my art makes sense with each other. They don't talk well to each other, and I like that about them. They kind of influence each other. So she has a secret of these. I know her secret. I only know because one of them had to be repaired, and I got to look in it. But when you'll see it face on, it moves depending on where you're standing. So they're 2 of my favorite things. They were gifts from my partner Matthew for one of my birthdays. So they're just fantastic. She does great work. All right, now we're going to go into my music room. Follow me. All right, so now we're in my music room, which I think is a little grandiose. This room is maybe 7 by 11, so why don't we call it like the piano porch? Because again, old house, this would have been the original open porch, and so there would have been French doors where we walked through, and all these windows have been added to enclose it. So it's a small room, but it does fit the grand piano, which was my first real purchase when I graduated from high school. I had a relative who was tired of the piano. I play. And so she offered it to me, and I paid it out for like 2 years. And so I felt like I was a real adult when I bought my first grand piano, my only grand piano. Things that in here I love, these were little gifts from my partner Matthew. These are from a Dallas sculptor, Brad Oldham. the brother of Todd Oldham, the fashion designer, and he does all of these birds and walking mans, and you'll see giant ones around the city that are public installation pieces. So I love those. This I painted. One of my degrees is in fine art, and so I painted this. So this is one of mine. I wouldn't say I love it, but I like it. Grandmother's Waterford chandeliers that I've moved at every house that I've had. So it's been in dining rooms, entryways, now it's in the piano porch. It will follow me everywhere. And then I just love this painting here. It's a French artist. His name is Rigaud. You'll see a couple of them in the house, but he's most known, he does some beach scenes, very casual, loose beach scenes in the Impressionist style. But this one is what he's really known for, which are cathedral interiors. And I just love the darkness. You know, if you've been into a cathedral in any part of the continent, you know, you walk in and if it's a cloudy day, it's dark, and then the shaft of light hits these windows and just illuminates it. So I love the nuns, and I love the stained glass and all the detail work of the masonry and joinery vaults and everything like that. So one of my favorite paintings. And then on these shelves, I have to say, I didn't buy one thing that is on these shelves, and I didn't realize it until I was dusting these damn things the other night, because there's just a lot to dust in this room. These all came from my mother, and so I think I said one time in passing, I'm going to do some shelves in alabaster and white stone, and thus it began. And so every time I went home, something new was produced, where she found it at a garage sale, estate sale, and so, you know, these just came in a couple of weeks ago. She had found those at an antique mall, and so Mom has given me all of these white, tan, and beige things that I think work really well in here. This statue, grandmother, as I said, I lost my grandmother last year. She's 97 years old and was a Spitfire to the end, and so this was on one of her banisters, and at one time would have been lit for gas. And so before electricity, there would have been an attachment here, and so this would have been a light to provide some illumination in here. Oh, and then I forgot, you know, the count your pennies and get what you want. I think I had read an Architectural Digest when I might have been 23 or 24, and there was a photograph of, I don't even remember whose apartment it was, but they had this stark antelope carpet, and I just thought, one day I'm going to have that. And so a couple of years ago I saved my pennies and got this put down in the piano porch, and as always is the case, you have a little too much, and they were getting ready to take it out. I said, oh no, this is like gold. You're not taking any of the scraps away. I'll find something to do with these. And I lived with them for a couple of months thinking, what am I gonna do with this? It's like golden fleece. And then I made the decision, well, maybe I'll just seam it and put it up the stairs. And so I was lucky to get a twofer. I got a floor and a runner. So you'll see the runner as we go upstairs in a little bit. When I walked in, well, I guess I should back up just a little bit. Like I say, I moved every 2 or 3 years. I'd find a house, redo it, flip it, and go to the next house. And always in this part of town. I'm in the Lakewood area of Dallas, which is about 1 mile away from White Rock Lake, which is kind of the crown jewel of Dallas for those of us that like to walk and run and bike. And the Arboretum is also there. So I've always lived in the area, but had never lived in a Tudor, which this area is really known for. And so I put my prior house on the market, and it surprised me, it sold before it hit the market. And so the wrinkle was they wanted it in 2.5 weeks, and so, or the deal was off. So I have a fantastic realtor. We looked at 66 houses in 6 days, and nothing met my needs. And this was the last house we looked at. And we walked in, and it didn't look like this, but we walked in, and I immediately said, I can make this work. And so made the offer and moved in 3 weeks later. All right, now we're in my dining room, which is a new addition for me. This, until about 3 or 4 months ago, was our formal living room. As I've said, I've done 3 additions on this house. over time. And so until 3 or 4 months ago, traditional living room in here. When we had people over to dine, we completely emptied this room and brought in a table that we have in storage and chairs that were in storage and did that. So it was a real commitment if you were going to have a dinner party. So we're thrilled to have a dedicated dining space, and obviously we're getting ready for a party. We didn't clean this house for Homeworthy and not get it ready for a party, so we're having a little dinner party tomorrow night. So things I love in this room, you're about to see as we move into the Butler's pantry. Bob and Matthew like stuff, and we really like dishes, silver, crystal, any things to deal with table. And so this was one of my first purchases in China, or fine china, which is the Royal Crown Derby, Old Amari. And I just love that, and paired it with Mosier, which is German glass, chargers, and then salad plates. Silver is Grand Baroque. All of the glassware is Waterford Mave. And so just love the table stuff. So you'll see we have about 25 sets of china. So, you know, it depends on who we're having and what they've seen. Sometimes it's all in white, sometimes it's blue and white. So today we're Crown Derby, a little more official. Love this light fixture. This was an antique French fixture that was a candelier, meaning originally had no electricity. It just burned off candles. And I just love the subtle shimmer of those amethyst glass beads. You don't see those that often anymore. So was thrilled to find those. And this was in the dustiest antique mall you can imagine, with the most disparate things you can imagine, meaning like toilet tissue holder things that your grandma had knitted. And so this stuck out like a sore thumb, and we went back 4 or 5 times and, you know, kept negotiating. Finally, they lost their lease and they needed to negotiate. So that's a new addition for us with the dining room. So love that piece. And then these, a pair of Baker chests, antique Baker, for Baker I should say, and then an antique sideboard Baker piece over there. So got a little matchy-matchy, but they're from different collections, which is fine. Other things, you know, that I love in here, we needed a pair of good mirrors in the dining room. They're surprisingly hard to find. Antique ones or pairs are impossible. If you do find them, they're prohibitively expensive. So I found this is Vintage Carvers. I can't remember where they're out of, but they still do all of their carving by hand, all of their bevel work by hand, and they still do this beautiful water gilt on all of their frames and mirrors. So I just think they're beautiful. They look appropriate. They go with the furniture, and they're just a little different. And then the elephant in the room, which are these tacky, fantastic lamps. I just love these things, and we bought them when we were getting this dining room. We started looking for lamps, and I said at the beginning, I've never met a lamp I didn't like. So these we thought were just like enough to give some gravitas to this dining room. So they're over the top, but we love them. So that's them. Across the sideboard back there, you heard me say I start with a monkey and then suddenly monkeys follow me around. I may be off, but I would say 8 months ago, besides this china, I didn't own a piece of Amari porcelain. Now you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bottle vases. There's a lot of Amari in this room and in this case, and as we move through the house, you'll see even more. So now we collect Amari because everywhere we go, there's a piece of Amari, so you got to buy it. And so we love having people over. It's so great to be able to have the space and to be able to leave it out and set up a couple of days early, and so it's worked really well for us. So it's a great room, and at night it glows, so we really love the space. Furniture piece, another furniture piece in the room is this French. This is actually a French bookcase. This is a kind of a story that's like, how did it end up there? I had a friend that was moving from Dallas to New Mexico, and so she felt her house in New Mexico was going to be much more New Mexican. And so she sold all of her high French and, you know, fussier things. So she had this for sale. My mom bought it and put it in her house. And when I moved into this house, I said, hey, Mom, you know, that cabinet would be just perfect for my room. And she said, well, what am I getting? So we traded. I had an antique cabinet that was about twice as big as this, which she needed the bigger cabinet. So this comes from my mom through a friend that she bought it. And so it holds a ton of, you know, stuff. Again, I said we collect things, and so I try to corral them where they're just not over every tabletop. So, you know, in here you'll find more Amari, you'll find Perrier, throughout the house, which Perrier we just love. It's, you know, it's was made during the Victorian age, and it was the poor man's marble. And so they did statues and busts of just everybody, and so you name it and there's a bust. So it's scattered throughout the house. And then I have an enormous collection of, again, it started with these porcupine quill boxes. They were made in India. When the British occupied India, the soldiers would make these and send them home as mementos. And so they come in all sizes and shapes, and so I've got way too many of them. But you'll see more of those throughout the house. And then, of course, more of the bottle vases. Again, we started, I think, with one, and we're up to about 42 of those now. So. Yeah, so tomorrow night we're having 2 neighbor couples. That's, you know, one of the things I absolutely love about this neighborhood is we are friends with our neighbors, good friends. And so we're having neighbors 2 sets across the street in separate houses come over tomorrow. We don't entertain, we're not informal people. So even when we try to be informal and set like a white table, a tablescape emerges. And so I would say we're a little more formal. So this table obviously is a little more formal. The normal, I would say I cut it down a little bit by doing not traditional flowers, so doing more of the plants and just keeping it kind of simple and organic. But the meal, we're having homemade gazpacho. It's one of the things I can do and I do pretty well. And then we're doing a gladly salad, which if you've never had one, you should look it up. I think it's at the Biltmore Hotel in Arizona, and it is the most beautiful salad. You can make it in advance, which is great if you're doing a dinner party. And then it's beautiful. It's sectioned in different ingredients, and then you top it with whatever your guest prefers. So like we're doing a smoked salmon and chicken option for them. And so then fresh bread, lots of wine, champagne, and other drinks, and then a great trifle for dessert. So high and low, I would say. All right, so now if you'll follow me, we're going to go through to the butler's pantry. So this is my butler's pantry, and during the renovation, this recent renovation, this was really our only eating area. So this was a small banquette with a small table, a couple of windows here. So it wasn't really functional for us. It was not easy for folks to get in or get out of the banquette, and so we just didn't utilize it much. And then I just decided it would make a fantastic butler's pantry for us. And as I said in the dining room, we're collectors of tableware and things like that. And so prior to having this, you know, we had dishes under beds and in cabinets all over the house. And so now we get to store and see the stuff that we use. So we're finding we are using things more often. So, you know, in here we have all of the different silver candlesticks. You know, this is a new addition. Well, that's not the one. This is a new addition that I just bought. That's an antique Royal Crown Derby. Got to figure out one for that. And then Wedgwood Medici and Wedgwood in gold ivy. And I think there's like 5 other there. But what it did is it got us super unorganized, if you hadn't told, but got me super organized. So like these drawers, you know, able to do the cut glass in a way. I open it and I can see it and immediately know what I'm going to use. And so this has just worked out beautifully for us. This is original to the house, the one part of the storage that's original. So, you know, all of the glassware goes in here. So it works out really well for us. And this was a major, one wouldn't think this was as major as it was, but I talked about how heavy the plasterwork is in this house. And literally in this Butler's pantry, it was raised in parts. It was like meringue almost in parts. And so we went through the painful process of sanding the hallway, the Butler's pantry, and the kitchen down to accept wallpaper. And I just love it. This is the Tebow, and it doesn't show in this light, but maybe when we get in the hallway, it has just a slight little bit of gold shimmer. And you know, as you've seen, I like a little bit of gold, or a lot. So I like that kind of juxtaposition of the grass cloth and then that kind of gold thread coming through. Love this little French snow skiing. It's by Jules Hervé. I have a couple of his paintings, and I just love how it captures. I've been there during that time of year where it looked like that, so it reminds me of the journey. And then this girl is interesting to me. I love her. Solid marble, heavy as all get out, and I got her, and there were 3 others. So she's spring, there was fall, winter, and summer. And so they sat on 4 pillars of a garden. And so I got spring, and she used to live in my garden, and then I brought her in at this house. And then, of course, for all of us that drink, constant bar makes it easy for when you have guests over. They can serve themselves. Just send them in here and serve themselves. And then, as you see, more Amari, more Perrier. Again, a year ago, I don't think I had a piece of this. So it's finding me. And then, you know, I don't like to talk about, you know, super bargains, but this one's a super bargain. This alabaster pendant weighs about 150 pounds. And that, my mother, I went to see her one Sunday, and walking through her garage through her pile of stuff she had bought this week, and that was there. And I said, I'm going to take that. And she said, okay, you owe me $2. I bought that at a thrift store for $2. So it's moved with me from every house. And to me, it's the perfect fixture in this house with that warm yellow gold that I just love that light. I don't like unadorned space. Unfortunately, I walk into these beautiful modern homes. I have friends, you know, and they have like one book and one beautiful candle, and I think, I want to live that way. And then I just think, well, what are you going to do with all your stuff? And so I love it. I just know it's not the way I'm going to live. So I don't like to have a blank backsplash. And so I found these antique watercolors, and I think they're Croatia, or maybe they're Prague. But I just like that there were 4 of them. I had them reframed in more of a little contemporary matte style. And just love kind of the interest. So you'll see art hung in unconventional places as we move through the house. Because as you're a collector, you run out of space and you got to find new places to hang things. It's a big secret. I'm not sure I can share that with you. It's command strips. I don't know what we did before command strips. So that's how they're hung. They're the kind that are not a hook. They're Velcro to Velcro. Sticky on both sides. Stick, press, stay. All right, so now we're going to go into the kitchen, so follow me this way. So as I told you, when I moved into this house, it was 1,400 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Tiny. And it was just me at that point, so I thought, oh, I can make this work. So this was the original footprint of the kitchen. So the refrigerator was here, but was not built in. And so recently had that done just to clean up the space. And so kitchen went through this last remodel, just kind of a light refresh. So repainted the cabinets. This is a custom historical color that I made up for Benjamin Moore made for me. So we repainted in the same thing. But I did take the opportunity to upgrade the countertops. The original, they weren't original, but they had walnut countertops. And while they were beautiful, I'm not a cooker, but my partner Matthew cooks every night. and they just are problematic. They do everything that a person with OCD hates. They stain, they show dust. They just drove me crazy. But it did have a beautiful antique French backsplash tile, all hand painted, and unfortunately there wasn't enough to carry forward. So just went with quartz. It's indestructible. It works well for his hot pans, his cutting, anything you can do. I'm a kind of a crafter, so I come in here and do things on it, and so far we haven't been able to damage it as of yet. So it's worked really well for us. This island, not an island, I think it was a desk, but this was something that was in the house when I bought it. And so when I walked into the house, I thought, what are the chances I'm going to find? I didn't want something new and slick and shiny. Again, not a cook, so I more care about the look than the functionality sometimes. But loved this antique table from Mexico. It's about 250 years old. And so we use it as our island, and it has drawers in it that holds bills. So one for Matthew, one for me, and not very functional for cutting or anything like that, but holds stuff. And at a dinner party, you can pile a charcuterie board or something like that on there. So we love this, and I'm so glad I was able to keep that with the house. These two pieces of art here are two of my favorite things. I'll show you in a moment the very first piece of real art I bought. These were my number 2. I think I was 18. And they're carved ivory. So they're unusual. They're Elizabethan court scenes, so they have a lot of relief and drama in them. I just love them. They have a lot of imperfections. They've cracked over the years, and they've been repaired a million times. But, I remember the pain of buying them and the excitement of buying them, and oh my God, how am I going to pay for them? And then getting them paid off and think, well, what I'm going to buy next. And so I love them, and I love that they're in the kitchen. You'll find some of my favorite things are in the most unconventional places because I'm in here all the time. I want to be surrounded by things no matter where I am. So the green in here is surprisingly not the same green that you saw in the living room, but it is a historic color. And so one of the things I feel very strongly about is I don't like going from a red room to a green room to an orange room. I'd love to see that house, by the way. So I like a consistent color palette through a house. Now, I break a rule. So I always say, I know the rules, and you got to know the rules before you can break the rules. But as you move through the house, you'll see these greens and beiges. You'll see in a moment the introduction of a kind of a persimmon color and more creams. And I just think that makes each room a little bit different. It has its own stamp on it, but it's cohesive to the house. And I want this house to have warmth, and I believe these colors really do warm up the house. And so hopefully people appreciate them. I know they're weird colors, but I just love them. All right, and we're just going to continue into the cooking part of the kitchen. And so this probably, talk about the third iteration of this house edition. And I guess I keep saying I've done 3. The first was I added an ensuite to the bedroom, the one guest bedroom that was my primary when I moved in. We'll see that in a little bit later. The second edition was more major. It was the addition of the second floor, which contains the primary bedroom, dressing area, closet, and bathroom. And then the one we just finished about 3 or 4 months ago was really the family room, which we'll see in a moment, but it refreshed the kitchen, and then also it extended the kitchen, and that was just necessary to get to the space where we needed the great room. So we took the opportunity, you're going to do it anyway, refreshed all the paint, cleaned up all the hardware. Stove's still on back order for a year. But took down the dated microwave vent combo and moved down into technology. I'm not an embracer of technology, to be quite honest. So, but I'm trying to be better. So now I have a microwave that's below the counter area and slides out. So that's new for me. And then the countertops, it really brightened up this kitchen. Those wood countertops, while lovely and warm, were dark. And so I do like this light quartz with just slight veining on it. And then it gave us just all of this new cabinetry that we didn't have before, because the kitchen would have stopped right here, I guess. So we gained about another 8 feet of kitchen and cabinetry and pantry, which is my favorite. And then, of course, our Mabel station. And so I know it's ridiculous, but I'm just going to show you. Mabel has, you know, she has her kibble, her water. She has her closet, if you will, with all of her turtleneck sweaters. So all Mabel's assortment is there of her dressing and then all of her food. So it gave us a chance to just really make the space work for us. And Mabel, who's our daughter. And then the unexpected thing is I didn't know I wanted a pantry. We had gotten very used to just storing stuff and buying fewer things and making more frequent trips to the grocery store. But you get a pantry and you love a pantry. So if you're interested in seeing the pantry, here she is. So I just love that I can now have adequate supplies of Topo Chico, all of my cereals and, you know, cookies and fruits, and then all my white, you know, kind of Blanc de Chien sits up there. So when that's primarily dishes and things we use outside, and so that's a perfect location for them to live there because it's just a short walk outside. So we love having this space here. And this was the original back door, by the way. So you can see it has the wave in it, and then we just frosted it for the pantry. And then you heard me say you're going to see art maybe where it's not supposed to be. We're still in the kitchen. And so I have art here too. So just a small chest that holds paperwork and keys and things like that. But this artist, her name is Koo Shadler. She fascinates me. She's a New England artist. I found her work in Santa Fe, but she is one of the few painters of this age that is painting with egg tempera. And if you're not familiar with that, that's what the Renaissance painters used. And so they mix their powders with egg yolk, and that creates a paint, and she paints with single or 3 hair bore brushes. And so you just get this infinite, tiny brushwork, and it probably won't show on camera, but like she even goes to the trouble of, like in the blonde hair, there's like 18 karat gold paint to give those highlights. So I love him. He reminds me of my nephew. I bought this painting kind of to commemorate a big 10-year milestone for me, a personal milestone, so it means a lot to me. And then under it, I have a Jeff Koons drawing. You don't see a lot of drawings by Jeff Koons. You know him for his sculptures. But I bought a small Jeff Koons in one of his limited series. You'll see that one in a sec. And so while I was talking to the artist, he said, "Would you like me to sign something?" I said, "Absolutely." And so he said, "Would you like me to draw something?" And I said, "Even better." And so that was a freebie, or a gift with purchase, I should say. And so had it framed well. And so now I can say I have a Koons drawing as well. I lead a sales and distribution team for half of North America for a corporation, and have done that for about 20 plus years. So no, I'm not a designer by trade, nor an architect. Okay, so now we're going to go into the new family room. Follow me. All right, so now we're in the family room, which is the newest addition to the house. So for the past 17 years, you'll see in a moment, we lived, or our family room was a spare bedroom. And so very tiny. We had a 30-inch television in there. We have an 85-inch television now, and I know I've heard everyone rave on their frame TVs and how it doesn't show that it's a TV, it's an art. I looked at them. They're great, so I'm not going to talk smack about the frame TV. This one just has a better picture, and Bob loves TV, and this is a TV room, and so we're having a big TV. So I don't care what it looks like. It's a great TV to watch movies on. But I love this room. It is exactly what I wanted it to be when I started working with my architect, who has been through every iteration of this house with me. And I love her because she listens. She knows the aesthetic that I have. She knows it's important to me that everything feel period. I do feel like I'm a steward of this house as the fourth owner. I talked about houses around this one being torn down and bigger houses going up. So I've done all of these things for my personal enjoyment, but also to make sure that this house endures, because this neighborhood is changing rapidly and I want this house to survive. So this turned out exactly as we wanted it. So I'll just walk you through a couple of things. I mean, I love the coved ceilings. You know, that was one of the things I thought, how can I get a little bit of period detail in the house without going crazy? So all of the millwork we did in here kind of matches the original millwork in other parts of the house. So that worked well. Again, moved this kind of funny, muddy color in here. It's not the green from another room. This actually has much more a beigey yellow in it. You'll see it pick up through the drapes that has that same greeny beige in the walls. And so it's a different color. So as I said, as we move through the house, the colors talk to each other, but they're slightly different. And in this room, more than any, you'll see kind of the emergence of kind of that persimmon orange coming up through the rugs and the pillows and the throws, and then some of the art. So there's a lot to talk about in this room. Kind of piled it high with some of our favorite things, since this is where we spend the majority of our time. So tons of bronzes in here, tons of lamps. Again, never met a lamp I didn't like. Lots of art, and so I'll just talk about a couple of them. These two pieces, well, there's, how many are in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 of these by this artist in this room, and his name is Donald Rollers Wilson, and he's from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and he is crazy as a loon, and will admit that himself. So he paints these gothic, mythical stories, and so you'll see in a moment what I'm talking about. So this one, you've got the teepee with the match coming out of it, and then the big match. This is part of the narrative. So he has a book, and all of these characters make up these crazy stories, and so he's a nutcase, but I love what he does, and I love how he paints. He paints like a Renaissance painter, and I'll show you that over here with 3 of them. So this guy, I'm telling you, he's crazy. You know, you've got a dog, a monkey, and another dog all dressed up. This one's in a beanie. They all have little stories painted by hand around them. They all have names. This is Ugly Betty. She's one of the main characters. That's Patricia, Betty's cousin. Like, there's a whole family folklore in the book about these characters, and they just crack me up. They make me smile every time I walk by them. I have some very serious art, and these bring me more joy than any piece of art I have, because they're just unexpected and they're goofy. And then they're right next to, you know, not serious, but more formal things. So Empire bronze candle holder. Funny story on that one. I bought that 100 years ago at Christie's at auction, and didn't check the measurements, and I asked them to ship it, and the shipping was going to be, I want to say 10 times the price I bought this thing. I didn't pay anything for it. And I was going to be up there in 2 weeks for business, so I went up there, and it was a lamp and was about 3.5 foot tall. So I took it to UPS and then stood there and dismantled this lamp to get it down to this size to be able to ship it. So, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. And I just love, these were new, not new, but they're new to us, these Russian Empire bronze and gilt lamps that we got at Muse, one of our favorite antique places in town. And then this artist, he's really no longer painting, which breaks my heart. He's a young guy. His name's Nick Kosiak, and he paints Ukrainian children well before, you know, the conflict that we're in the middle now. But he spent time there and was horrified by, like, the orphanages and the sadness of the children. And so you will see these portraits, and I love the, you know, his closed fist indicating, you know, struggle or, you know, whatever he's going through, and then that openness of the open palm of, you know, hope. So I just love that. That's one of my very favorite paintings. All right, so as we move through the room, you know, if you haven't picked it up, and I think I already told you, I love bronzes. This was a Valentine's Day gift last year, I believe, and this is a Bustamante. He's a Mexican artist that does just really whimsical bronze work. So I love him. These are reproductions, but they are really good reproductions of the French Guérin tables. So I love these. These babies, these needlepoint chairs we found at the last minute to go in these rooms. Colors are perfect. I love the pattern of them on the pattern of the floor. They're comfortable, they're deep, and they're different. I mean, they're a little grandma-y, but I think they work. You know, I talked in here of like all of my upholstery is going to be a little bit more current. And so, you know, the sofa is a very straightforward sofa. The mohair chairs are in a very traditional profile, as are these little barrel chairs, and then the cocktail table in onyx. So very clean, timeless, and so I like to throw in some antiques where I can. You know, these are, and there's two, I'll show you the other one in a moment. These came from my grandma that I lost her last year, and I coveted these things for 48 years. I was with her when she bought them. I think I was 12 when we bought them. Yeah, I'm 60, so yeah. So I was 12. She bought them. They're terracotta, French terracotta, and they're young Napoleon and Josephine. So they would have sat for these. I've never seen another pair of them in my life, and I just love they retain all of their hand painting on them, just fabulous detail. They creep some people out, but I just love them. And again, they just add another conversation point in the room. So in the great room, you know, we've walked through the living room, dining room, butler's pantry, kitchen. This house, as you'll see, it meanders. It's a deceiving house. From the curb, it still looks like a 1,400 square foot house. People are surprised. They get in and we kind of wander and they're like, oh, there's another room, and it leads to another room and another room. And we talked about that. The architect and I talked really thoughtfully about, should we open up some more walls? And two reasons no. I decided no. Number one, I was already 30% over my estimate of what I was comfortable with, so I wasn't looking to add costs. And two, I thought that took away from what I was trying to do with the house. And what I mean by that is keep it as true to its original function as one could. So, like, listen, these houses, people live in them. Each owner puts their own stamp on them. I probably have put the biggest stamp on it of any owners, but I hope that, you know, the viewers come away and go, that makes sense. You know, the rooms do flow. You know, it's not disjointed. You don't go into this huge family room that's open to the kitchen only then to go back into these kind of rabbity rooms. So we were really thoughtful about that, and I hope it comes through. In this room, some of my furniture, favorite furniture pieces, this little small table, it's chagrin and bronze, and it's the designers are R&Y Augusti out of Paris. And they just do quirky tables, lots of boxes and vessels, but they always use unusual materials in kind of in a way that hasn't been used before. So that was a Valentine's present from Matthew maybe 5 years ago, and I just love it. It's, again, you know, you look for those things that are a little funkier, that can play well with the antique, and I thought that was perfect. It gave it, you know, a little bit more modern, contemporary, but still they talk to each other. And of course, on the table, I told you monkeys were going to become a thing. There's a monkey, so there's two. Started with one, and there's one you'll see in another. Talked about my love of bronzes, and again have, you know, 3 bronzes here, varying ages. I love the bronzes of animals, so those are the ones I really try to look for, but any bronze I'll buy, to be quite honest. Moving through the room, again, another monkey, gilt bronze. I think this one was an inkwell at one time. Purchased this at Nick Brock. He just has the most beautiful antiques of all Dallas, so if you need something very special, highly recommend shopping at Nick's. So I got that there. Some cased Italian glass. I love kind of the thickness of that. Then the star of the room, in my opinion, is the Jeff Koons. That is the balloon bunny. And that's produced by Bernardo. So while that looks like a balloon bunny or a metal balloon bunny, that's actually porcelain with that finish placed on it. So I just love that, and that's where I met Mr. Koons and ended up with the drawing. So I feel really fortunate to have that. And again, it's one of those pieces that people ask about. They're like, and they always do it like they don't want to insult you, but they're like, is that a balloon? You know, that kind of tone. Is that a balloon? What is that? So I love that opportunity to start a story. And then again, the pair to Josephine Napoleon over here, again, inherited from my grandmother last year. And then the last piece in the room that I wanted to highlight was this case. I am not a person that likes display cases. I fight against them. I don't like them. This was my grandmother's, and it's a nice specimen. It's a Chinese Chippendale, which are rare. It's small, which is rare. And, you know, no one else in the family wanted it, and I thought, well, I didn't want it just to go to auction, so I thought, well, I'll find a home for it. And lo and behold, it fits perfectly there. And then what it did that I never even thought, it holds all of these little treasures that I like to collect. But, you know, on their own, they're just one small thing, but you put them in a cabinet like this and suddenly you have a collection. So, you know, these are all bronze, and they use these as wax seals. So when you used to write letters and seal them, you would hot wax, and then these would put your initials in them. So I love collecting those, some small ivory pieces, and then these, of all things, my aunt at one time collected Judith Lieber handbags. And so I thought they were so unique and so beautiful. I thought, well, I'm going to buy some of the pill boxes. They look like little sculptures. And so on the bottom shelves are all those Judith Lieber pill boxes. I think they look like little pieces of jewelry. So I just love the sparkle that they give in the room. So I ended up loving that cabinet. So try it. Sometimes you'll like it. You know, when we built this family room, it served a couple of purposes, or I wanted it to serve a couple of purposes. Number one, I wanted a giant TV. I figured at 60 years old, I want a big TV. So it seems ridiculous to build a room for a TV, but that's how my mind works sometimes. Matthew cooks every night, and he's an amazing cook. And in the old setup, I was on the other side of the house. We couldn't talk. And so now we're able to have a conversation while I'm sitting here watching television while he's cooking dinner for me. And then the third was it gave us easy access to the backyard. And we entertain, well, we're outside all the time. If we're not working, we're working outside in the garden. And so, and we entertain a lot outside. So this room granted us, number one, it created a very nice courtyard. It also connected the guest house, so now my office, I don't have to walk outside in the rain. But it created a kind of lovely, I'm going to say New Orleans-y courtyard. So I'd love to show that to you guys next. You know, to me, the personality of the home comes from the owners. So while I say I fight against grandma taste, you know, I'm drawn to old things, and I'm the one living here, so I don't make apologies, and I don't think anyone should. If you love what's in your home or love your home, then that makes it your home. And so I travel a lot for work, and so after a week out of town, I love coming home and I open the door and it's quiet and it's warm and my family's here, my dog's here, and it's my sanctuary, so it's my safe, quiet place. All right, so now we're out in our courtyard. You know, this was a space we weren't quite sure what was going to come because we had a really great sized backyard post this addition. So imagine this not being here and this all being yards. So we had a nice sized yard, and you know, one of the things we were concerned about is what are you going to have left over? And we just got lucky. So what I decided, previously this was turf and flower beds and lots of curving and more English in style. And so, and I hate that it's February in Texas. There's not a lot of things blooming right now, and it's a little bleak out here, but you get the gist. So when construction started, we kind of didn't know what we would end up back here with. And you know, we lost a lot of plants. Plants had to be moved. It destroys your landscaping construction. And so I took the opportunity to rethink the space. And so when we realized we had more space than we need, or than we thought we might, I thought, well, let's make this more like a New Orleans courtyard. So you'll see we put down all of the, and there, I had some just very smaller area, so found more of this great Chicago antique brick. So again, it instantly ages the space, so it's not brand new looking. I wish y'all were here in like a month because all of this furniture goes away. And all new Palachek hospitality suite furniture is coming out here, so come back. But we do entertain a lot out here, so you know, formal or informal dinner parties out here, primarily a little more casual, blues and whites and white tables and things like that. And then I'm always on the hunt for unusual garden things. So you'll see over here, this is an antique armillary, which is how they would have, you know, measured time and astral positions at time. You know, I warned you at the beginning of this thing, I'm a little bit of a thief when it comes to my mom. Two of these French statues in the corner. She had just found those at a garage sale, and I was out there and I said, those are going in the back of the car. And so those came home with me. So, and this was a birthday present from my mom several years ago, bronze fountain. She wasn't a fountain for probably 6 years, and then once we built this courtyard, had her plumbed and dropped the reservoir in there, and so now she's great. Now I have to admit, on conference calls, I always have to close the door because people are like, you're in the bathroom, and I'm like, I swear that's a fountain, that's not me in the bathroom. So love that. And then I love anything Victorian, and we were recently in Fredericksburg last month, and I found this just fantastic Victorian plant stand. I know some people are like, ugh, gross, chippy iron, but I just love it. And I have, you know, containers throughout the garden. They're cast iron, they're heavy, they have substance, and they hold flowers beautifully. So you'll see them dotted throughout the garden. So come back in summer or fall, and I guarantee you it's color everywhere. Right now, kind of bland. I love the warmth of the house. I love it's a quirky house. In one second, I think, God, I'd love to sell this house and build a brand new home from scratch. I've never owned a new home that I've built. I've always rehabbed homes. And so I've grown to really love the quirks of this house. You know, all of the windows are original except for the additions. They required new windows. But all the original windows are here with the wavy glass. In most places, I went back on the additions and put in French Restoration glass to kind of mimic that old glass work. But you know, you'll see uneven plaster in these houses as they've been repaired over the years. A little heavier finish on the wall than we'd probably prefer modern days. It is what it is. There's level changes in this house, so if you're a klutz, me, you have to be conscious of those things. And it's not an open concept house, so that works really well for us. We like delineated spaces, and so, and you'll see, you know, I said earlier we've made 3 additions to this house. The latest one is a great room, family room, whatever you want to call it. And that did kind of open up our living in the house, but it is definitely a segmented house. And I think during COVID and post-COVID, people really started looking for that, as you know, you had multiple people at home and each needing dedicated, quiet workspace. All right, so now we're going up to the primary bedroom. I'm going to pause here on this stairwell just to call out a couple of things. Number one, my cause figures. I love those. Again, those are a little more attempt at contemporary art on these acrylic bases. But, you know, the real story here is this monster painting. And Bob bought this and read the dimensions but apparently didn't comprehend the dimensions. So I wanted, it's a Texas artist, last name Gonzalez, and this was hanging in the Seagram's building in New York, and they did a deacquisition sale at Sotheby's or Christie's, I can't remember. Anyway, I bought it and went to pick this thing up in my SUV, and it wouldn't fit. So then I went and rented a U-Haul, and it still didn't fit, so I had to buy the largest U-Haul. So, word of warning, check the sizes. Now, I was lucky that it fit here, but otherwise I would have had a 6 foot by 6 foot painting. Guess I could have made wallpaper with it, so check your dimensions. All right, so now we're in the primary bedroom. This was the second addition I did to the house, so all that we're going to see upstairs, all that exists, is the primary bedroom, dressing area, closet, and bathroom. So this is just our space. And I wanted a space where I could retreat, and you know, I was just living here by myself. I don't know what I was retreating from, but I thought, you know, there will come a time where I want some separate space. And so I love the idea of being able to get a seating area in here. The other thing, you know, that we talked about in this room was you go into these old houses and you come up into the attic spaces and you get these wonky ceilings, and you know, you're walking into a slant or there's a gable there's just a lot of unusable space. And so my architect and I really talked and thought through of how we would get this and not have that. So, you know, the downstairs, they're 12-foot ceilings. We just have 8 feet up here. We do have one weird angle, so that's the exterior roof climbing. But to get this mass with no sort of weirdness in it, we cut the roof of the house off and lifted the roof 7 feet. And so that allows us to really make it look like a room and not like a attic conversion. So up here, you know, my goal was quiet, layers upon layers of creams and golds and whites. I wanted it to be very quiet. The bedding has to wear like iron. We have a 4-year-old miniature dachshund named Mabel that you'll see running around, and she sleeps with us, as all your dogs should. And so I love this bedding. This is Ann Gesh, and it's all silk, but it's washable silk. And so whatever happens to this, and believe me, every month, anyone that owns a dog has been awoken at 3 a.m. by the famous, ugh, you know what's coming. And so these can be washed and wear like iron. So I just love her linens. It's like top quality, but just impervious to anything. The painting over the bed is the one Roller Wilson that is not downstairs in the family room. That's where the rest of them are. And this one is my favorite. I love the cats. I love the one that's smoking and the bee. And, you know, I'm not going to take the time, but there's their story of what they're going through at the moment, hand painted around the frame. So again, just a crazy artist who I love. Over here, this is, I consider my best painting. This artist is a Russian artist named Igor Melnikov. I have this one and the one to the right. And he primarily paints children from war-torn countries. And so you'll see a lot of melancholy. They're not happy children. So he paints the struggles that they go through. And his work is just beautiful. Again, he's one of those artists that paints with a very small haired brush to get infinite detail. And there's just something about it that grabs me. You know, the weird things that I like to collect that bring a little bit of humor. I love this trend of these contemporary artists doing lines for other companies. And so this is the Haas brothers. They do these enormous weird monster chairs, but they did this for L'Objet. And so, you know, that's an affordable way of getting a piece of art by an artist that may be out of your means otherwise. And then over here, you know, I told you I will mix things up. These are all, you know, with the exception of this cat painting, all of these are by two brothers, Seth and Simon Weiniger. and they paint differently. So I thought that was unique that I found a pair of painting brothers. And then I just mixed it in with, I got this at a garage sale for 25 cents, and it's an interior of a cathedral. We saw, I like that in finer paintings downstairs, and so I thought, you know what, let's mix that in. So I thought that was a nice addition to the room. So I just love like this tonality of the room. You know, there's burlap, there's velvet, there's this jute seagrass, there's onyx, there's brass, there's silk, but it all ties together because it's all very tonal. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the dressing room and my closet. So my closet, small but mighty. You know, when I built this addition, I wanted a big closet, and this felt really large when I built that. You know, you're always over budget. So looking back, I should have made this closet even bigger and done things now that I'd like to do, but it works. You're probably telling now I don't wear a lot of color. You'll see I wear navy, black, tan, gray, and pretty much solids. I think there may be 6 plaid shirts up there. Unless I get into dinner jackets. And then, of course, I love a good dinner jacket. So, you know, people say I look like an Oscar statue when I wear that. And then, of course, the real sickness is shoes. So for a guy, I have a lot of shoes, and I'm not going to apologize. I like them. Home is my sanctuary. It's my playground. It's my experimental place. I have no fear of trying things. You're going to see some rooms that I'm breaking some rules, or things that are not considered fashionable right now. I don't care. I like it. And it solved a unique problem that we'll talk about when we get into those rooms. And so home for me is a place for me to be myself, to do what I want, to surround myself with friends and family. We live somewhat formally, but I'd like to say we're formally informal, meaning there's nice things in the house, but nothing's too precious. Put a drink down, pick something up, look at it, ask the question. We like talking about the things that we collect. So to me, it's, you know, my quiet space, and then it's a space that I can bring in friends and family and kind of share the house.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.